that if you want to have anything, you have to borrow money. And that's a very, very dangerous mentality that a lot of people have. People sincerely think that if you want to be able to afford or buy nice things, you have to get in debt. Okay, now remember the word debt is written D-E-B-T, but the B is silent. So I'm not talking about debt muerte, I'm talking about debt deudas. So give me your perspective about your opinion about people owing money to other people. Do you think it's acceptable? It's just normal that it's okay to have these debts? And when I talk about debt, I'm talking about credit cards, about préstamos, loans, about just people owing money to the guy who comes down the street selling perfume. That's what I'm talking about. Do you think it's something that's supposed to be accepted as common, normal behavior as an adult? What do you think? Moises Rodriguez, I need to see your face. Talk to me, people. Las deudas, debts, what's your opinion? Do you think it's something that is completely normal?
Well, for me, it depends on what do you want. Like, for example, you said préstamos. I feel like if you're gonna ask for it, let's say to buy a house, I get it. Maybe you need a place to stay because something happened and you don't have where. So, but if you're gonna just ask for it to buy useless things, it doesn't make sense.
But you see, it's a common habit, particularly here, let's talk about Panama because that's where we live. It's a common habit that people always owe somebody money, always. For instance, if you work in an office building, it's very common that whenever there's a payday, somebody comes around collecting money that you owe because you bought the pulserita or the sandalias or the aretitos, and you buy it with the intention of paying it later. So it's a common habit. So not only in office buildings, it also happens in constructions. If you go by constructions, every time they get paid, which is usually like on Thursday or Friday, I don't know, you're gonna see the lady out there with her notebook writing down who owes her money. So they buy food from her every day and they pay her when they get paid. So it's like a habit, okay? How many people get their electricity cut off because they didn't pay it on time? Or they kick them out of their building, or stuff like that, because people have a lot of debt and they don't pay it on time. So as you upcoming adults, because some of you are adults and some of you are going to become adults like in the next few seconds, what do you think would be a good strategy for you not to end up like all these adults that are endeudados hasta acá arriba? So that, for instance, whenever they get paid, most people get paid on the 15th and the 30th, right? And a lot of people, by the time they get home, they don't have anything to take home because they have to pay the préstamo, they have to pay the indostán, they have to pay el chinito, they have to pay la escuela, they have to pay la luz. And when they get home, they're frustrated because they just got their salary and they have nothing. Okay? And so what do most people start doing? They start using their credit card. Now, I don't know how much you know about how credit cards work. We should start from there because this is important information. Who wants to explain to me how credit cards work? Who knows how credit cards work? Or somebody's got to know how it works.
I think that they put money in the card. For example, 100. If you take like $50, they cobrar.
Charge
that money that you take and interest. I think that's something like that.
Okay, people, you are going to be adults in 3 seconds. You have to know how credit cards work. Now, I'm not an expert in credit cards. I actually do not believe in credit cards, but let me give you a general idea. Credit cards you can have two types, okay? No, let's not complicate it. Let's just talk about credit cards. Okay, everybody knows what a debit card is, right? Yes. The famous tarjeta clave. Everybody knows what tarjeta clave is, right? Good. So let's not talk about that. The money in the tarjeta clave is your money. But in your credit card, that money does not belong to you. It's money that the bank is willing to lend you. So for instance, you go and you fill out the application because you want a credit card, and the bank looks at your salary, where you work, where you live, whatever. And they decide that, okay, we're going to give you a credit card with a maximum of $1,000. That $1,000 does not belong to you. It's not yours. You can use it, yes, but every time you use it, you end up paying the bank probably, I'm not sure the exact number, but by the time you pay that off, you probably paid 3 times what you were supposed to pay. So what happens with a lot of people is that they use off all their money, and then they start depending on the credit card. And when you have a credit card, you can make a minimum payment. And the minimum payment sometimes can be like $25. So everybody, oh yeah, I'm gonna pay the minimum. But that minimum that you paid is not going towards the $1,000. It's only the interest and the insurance and a whole bunch of other payments that they take out of you. So every time you pay $25, it's not like, okay, now you owe $975. No, you still owe $1,000 because that $25 was just the minimum payment, which does not apply towards the $1,000 that you spent. I don't know if you're understanding this. And that's why when you have credit card debt, it's like one of the most difficult things to get rid of. That's why people always have credit card debt, because they make the minimum payment, and that minimum payment does not make the money go down. So if you have like a 1,000 limit on your credit card, and you pay for 5 months, $25, the minimum payment, maybe the next time you look at your account, it might be $985, and you pay $25 for 5 months. So that's the danger of having a credit card. Now, credit cards are not evil. No, I used to say that before, but I changed. You have to be very smart. If you have a credit card and you use $500 of that credit card, pay off the $500 completely. That way, the bank cannot charge you a lot of interest. But like I said, most people only want to pay the minimum, and the minimum does not make the debt go down. Are you understanding this? For a lot of people here, particularly in our country, in Panama, it's normal to use your credit card for everything. So if you use your credit card and you eat some food, to buy some food, your food is digested years ago and you still haven't paid for it with your credit card. You have to be very smart. Okay, so what should you do if you really want to have nice things and you don't have the money to buy those nice things? What would be a better approach?
To take the responsibilities of things according to your salary. You don't have to take like a huge debt that is not according to your salary, because it won't function.
I think one of the biggest things that everybody needs to remember is that you don't need to compare yourself to anybody. Don't compare yourself to anybody. And I think that this whole COVID-19 has probably taught a lot of people that lesson, but a lot of people are not, there's always going to be a student that fails. A lot of people are not going to understand it. One of the reasons why so many people were in such terrible conditions when COVID-19 hit and they lost their jobs was because they had absolutely no money saved. Now, people in Panama love to save, but what do? They take out all that money in December and spend it. That doesn't make any sense, humans. So people had money in December, and then 2 months later, when COVID hit, no money. That's not an intelligent way to live. So a lot of times we want to be living comparing ourselves to other people. If you cannot pay for something, then that thing is not for you. You either wait and save your money or move on to something else. If you cannot pay for it, like cash, it's not for you. But a lot of people don't understand this. And so I have known people, I remember once where my office used to be, there were some people there who owned a car wash. And one of them, he went to one of these furniture places, and got the biggest furniture set he could find, so big it could not even fit into his little cuartito where he lived. And everything was like twisted. They showed me pictures. Everything was twisted and you had to walk sideways to be able to pass. But he wanted to show all the people around the neighborhood that he could buy the biggest furniture. And then what happened? The car wash business started going down and he couldn't pay the monthly payments to the furniture store, and the furniture store came and took the furniture. Now, a lot of people see this as, ay, normal, se llevaron mis muebles. That's not normal. That's not a very smart way to live. And so if these people had started thinking from the time they were your age, like, hey, if I cannot pay for it, if I have to be borrowing money to pay for it, if I have to use a credit card for it, then it's not mine. I probably cannot buy the big furniture. Let me buy something smaller, but I know that I can afford it. Okay, so bringing this back to Dorian Gray, this was a situation that this girl, Sybil, was in. She was paying off a debt that her mother owed. Okay, now, chapter 7 and 8, like I said at the beginning, this becomes like a very bad Mexican novela. In chapter 7, Dorian Gray is telling all his friends, well, his two friends, how wonderful Sybil is, how she's a genius, how much he loves her, how much he adores her. And I'm going to read for you part of what he says, which becomes very ironic in a few minutes. And every time he looked at her, he was absolutely like in love with her. Okay. He said, when you see Sybil Vane, you will feel that the man who could wrong her would be a beast without a heart. I cannot understand how anyone can wish to shame the thing he loves. I love Sybil Vane. I want to place her on a pedestal of gold and see the world worship the woman who is mine. Okay, that's in chapter 6. He is saying that he cannot imagine anybody ever hurting Sybil Vane. Okay. And so, a few hours after that, he and his friends go to watch Sybil act because he told them how wonderful she was and all of this, okay? And when she started acting, it was horrible. Now, remember that before, Sybil Vane was a brilliant actress. And Dorian fell in love with her because of her acting. And then now when he goes back to see her act with his friends, she's horrible. What do you think really happened? Who wants to give me a guess? What do you think happened? Yeah, so everybody's talking, but then nobody's talking. Yeah, who?
Okay, I guess I'm gonna say something. So I guess probably she went through a bad situation that day, and her acting was bad because she was sad or something like that.
Okay, that could be it. Who else?
Me.
Yes.
I think that maybe she was never a brilliant actress, but he thought that she was because she was beautiful.
Okay. Before that, when Dorian and Sybil had a conversation, he had told her that he was in love with her, and her response was that she was not worthy to be his wife. And there's this whole telenovela thing in which she falls in love with him and he falls in love with her, and they're so in love, blah, blah, blah. When his friends showed up, this is what it says. Dorian Gray grew pale as he watched her. He was puzzled and anxious. Neither of his friends dared to say anything to him. She seemed to them to be absolutely incompetent. They were horribly disappointed. She was a complete failure. She acted like 3 or 4 different scenes and everything was horrible. And his friend said, well, she's really pretty, but that's it. She's not a good actress. Okay, so when her acting was finished and his friends left, Dorian went to speak to her. Now, remember what I read to you a few minutes ago, where he said that only a beast would hurt a woman that he loves. This is what happens. Dorian goes to speak to her. As soon as he comes in, she's telling him, oh, did you notice that I acted really badly? And he's like, yes, what happened? Are you sick? And she's like, no, it's because now I'm in love with you and all my love is for you and I don't love acting anymore and I'm going to just dedicate my love to you and acting is not important and I'm going to stop acting and just be dedicated to you. Okay, that's stupid, but it's very common. A lot of women do nonsense like this. They fall in love and then they completely change who they are to accommodate the guy. But that's not the bad part. The bad part is that immediately he went into beast mode. And let me tell you some of the things that he told her. He said, you have killed my love. You used to stir my imagination. Now you don't even stir my curiosity. You simply produce no effect. I loved you because you were marvelous, because you had genius and intellect, because you realized the dream of great poets and gave shape to substance to the shadows of art. And then he goes on to say, I would have made you famous, splendid, magnificent. The world would have worshipped you and you would have borne my name. But what are you now? A third-rate actress with a pretty face. Now, this is the guy who just said a few minutes before that, or a few hours before, that he would, only a beast would hurt the person that he loves. And listen to all the things that he's saying to her. So my question to you is this: did he ever really love her?
No. He was in love with the way she used to act.
What else? What else was he in love with? Because notice that he said, I would have made you famous, splendid, magnificent. So what was he in love with? What else was he in love with?
Her acting.
And what was he going to get from making her splendid? What was in it for him?
More reconocimiento.
Recognition.
More recognition and more money.
Mm-hmm. People, has it ever happened to you that you have people who are your friends, but they're only friends with you because of something they can get from it? Or maybe you haven't lived enough, but you've heard of stuff like this. Have you? People who want to be your friends, not because they like you, but because just being in your company is good for them, because it does something for them. Has that happened to you? Have you heard of this happening? Okay, who wants to tell me? Why do people do this? Why?
To get high status.
Yes, what else?
Survive.
The what?
Survive.
The vibe?
Survive.
Okay, survive. Okay, yes.
One the easy way.
Uh-huh. And wouldn't people start to, because remember that Sybil was of a lower economical status than, what's his name, Dorian. So if he was able to rescue her or take her and make her into something famous, wouldn't people look at him and say, wow, Dorian, you are wonderful. Look at what you did for this girl, okay? So he would have received some of the worship. And isn't that something that most people want? Like, oh, look at what she did for him. She married him and now he's wonderful, right? Isn't that what people want? Isn't that one of the reasons why so many girls fall for the bad guys? Because they want to change him with their love. In fact, I remember when I was young, a long time ago, I once went to a wedding, and I probably told some of you this already. I went to a wedding, and there was this girl who, she was really nice, and she was marrying this guy who was like maleante plus, like you know, el rey de los maleantes. And in the church, at the wedding, she said, oh, I know he's a little rough around the edges, but with my love, I'm gonna transform him. And all the young girls, the single girls, we were seated in the back, we were like in the middle of the ceremony because we could not believe that she was actually saying that stupidness. Well, of course, the years went by, it was a long time ago, and she didn't transform him. I think he transformed her, and last time I saw her, she was looking kind of rough too. But this is what we want, right? We want to rescue him, and my love changed him, and this foolishness that we see in novelas and movies. And that's exactly what Dorian was looking for. So he told her all these horrible things, and he became the beast. So when he got home, remember one of the previous chapters, when he had just seen the picture of himself for the first time, what did he say? Do you remember what he said? When he first saw the picture, what was his reaction?
He got anxious that that the picture will always be young and that he will age and become ugly.
Yes. So when he got home and he looked at the picture, what do you think he saw in the picture? Oh, come on, use your imagination.
The picture turned like a bit evil.
Exactly. The innocent, beautiful smile that he had in the picture was disappearing slightly. So instead of smiling, he had like a smirk. You know what a smirk is? A smirk is like not really a smile, like an ugly smile. Okay, so that happened to the picture, and then he remembered, oh, I remember that I wanted all the evil things that I do and all my ugliness and all my aging to go to the picture instead of me. So when he saw that the picture was being affected by the evil thing he had just done, how do you think he felt? Do you think he felt good, or did he feel sad? How do you think he felt?
I think he felt good.
Mm-hmm. Because what did that mean? If he could do bad things and the picture would get ugly, what do you think that meant?
That he will keep his pretty face and everyone will think he was an angel.
So tell me something, people, those of you who are silently staring, thinking that you're looking at me, but you're not. Tell me something. When we do evil things or we have evil thoughts, does it change our face?
I guess it depends on what type of thought it is. If
Okay.
it's like a really violent thought, it will like ruin your mood.
Okay.
But if something like I don't know, like say you have like a glass full of water and you just think like throw it into the ground or smash it or something, that will ruin your mood, but that will make you question yourself about your issues.
Okay. So when you walk into a prison, and I hope none of you ever have to do that, what would you think you would see on the expression of the faces of the criminals in a prison? Would they all be like, oh, so sweet? Or what kind of faces do you think you would see on them? Specifically the face. What would you notice on all their faces?
Maybe regrets and, like, what's up? If you bother me, I will hit you or something. Mm-hmm. Like a bad face, bad God face.
Okay. So would they look innocent and like little angels?
No.
What do you think would be the most common expression that you would find on the face of a criminal?
Maybe a serious expression.
Maybe a serious expression like anger, right? You wouldn't see like a lot of happiness and joy and bliss on their faces. So it's very possible that having angry thoughts or doing angry things would affect your face. But let's continue. So that was chapter 7. So what happens in chapter 8? In chapter 8, after telling that girl all those horrible things, Dorian finally gets home and he sleeps the whole morning until about midday. And then he notices that he got a letter from Lord Henry, but he doesn't feel like reading it. And he starts writing a letter to Sybil, apologizing for all the things that he said to her and saying that, you know, he's really sorry, he's really gonna marry her, not to worry. Okay, now pause here. Dorian never actually asked Sybil to marry him. What really happened was that he said, I love you, and her response was she was not worthy to be his wife. Okay, so how did a 17-year-old girl hear I love you and immediately think wife? Who wants to answer that? How does that happen? And is that something common? I'm gonna start calling your names, you know. Let's go with Diane Otero. He said, I love you. She said, I'm not worthy to be your wife. He never said anything about marrying. And so he took like, okay, we're engaged because she said she's not worthy to be my wife. How did that happen?
Maybe she thought he was the love of his life, her life.
Okay.
I think that they just hear what they want to hear. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, that's probably it. You know, and there's this it's a stereotype. It's a stereotype because it's not necessarily true, but there's a stereotype that all little girls dream about their wedding. That's not true, but it's a very common belief. So it's very likely that she was one of these little girls, because remember that in those days, people got married a lot sooner than now. Please do not get married before you're 25 or 30 anyway. So he said, I love you, and she understood, oh, I'm getting married. And that's the reason why she fell in love so deeply in love in a matter of days. Okay. So he wrote this letter to her telling her that, oh, please forgive me. I didn't mean any of that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm still going to marry you. Blah, blah, blah. And he didn't read Lord Henry's letter. So finally, Lord Henry showed up at his house and he's like, are you okay, Dorian? He said, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just going to send this letter to Sybil. Like, why are you sending a letter to Sybil? Oh, because what I did last night was horrible. I told her all these horrible things and I want to apologize. And so Lord Henry asked him, didn't you read my letter? Like, no, I was going to read it later. And Lord Henry said, well, Sybil committed suicide. Okay, so let's pause there for a second. Why do people commit suicide? Who wants to take that? Who wants to try answering that? The girl whose forehead, the only thing I can see is your forehead, and who's the only person whose names I cannot see. So I'm guessing that's Mary Ruth. Answer me. Why would this girl commit suicide? Not other people. Let's not go into general. Let's go specifically to this girl.
I don't know. Maybe she thinks that her life has no reason.
No purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. But she was only 17. Who else wants to add to that? Layali.
Maybe because they don't feel good with the things that are around the person.
Okay. Good. Now, specifically this girl, this person, Dorian Gray, who she had on a pedestal, who she think was her Prince Charming, who was going to rescue her from whatever, because she was poor and he wasn't. And she messed up her acting career for him because she loved him. So instead of loving her career, she loved him completely and messed up her career. And then he tells her he wants nothing to do with her because she messed up her career. So in that moment, what do you think was going through her mind? What was going through her mind? What were the thoughts that were going through her mind, Natalie?
I don't know.
Some of you are 17. You're 17, a guy tells you he loves you, you're going to get married, and then you make one mistake and the guy cusses you out. How would you feel?
I would hit him.
Yes, Melissa, we know that. The rest of you who wouldn't hit him, how would you feel? Rebecca, tell me.
I don't know. I supposed to feel bad if a guy does it to me.
But would you feel bad enough to want to commit suicide?
No, of course not.
No. So what was really going on with Sybil?
Well, I don't know. Maybe she take this success to make her feel like she's not able to be alive.
Okay. Do you think there's a possibility that her actions had anything to do with some revenge? Some thoughts of revenge?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So what had happened to Sybil was that after her acting, after Dorian left, she was walking home with her mom and she told her mom that she had forgotten something and that she was going to be right back. So she went back inside the theater and never came back out. So her mom went in, and when they found her, she had drank something and was already dead. Okay. The character of Sybil in this story was always portrayed like an airhead. Okay, she was like this silly girl because you're calling this guy Prince Charming. You think he's gonna rescue you, like he's your only hope, and then you commit suicide because he broke up with you. So she was always presented like that. And you also have to realize that in that time, women were not thought of as very intelligent. Okay, so that's one of the things that Oscar Wilde tried to portray. So eventually, when Dorian found out that Sybil had killed herself, what would have been an appropriate reaction? How do you think he should have reacted?
Confused.
Mm-hmm. Confused. What else?
Concerned and sorry.
Uh-huh. What else?
Guilty.
Mm-hmm. But based on what we know about how empty-headed he was and how much he focused on his physical beauty, what do you think his real reaction was?
Maybe he didn't care.
Mm-hmm. Indifferent, right? So my question to you is it possible that the way in which Dorian acted had anything to do with all the things that Sir Henry had told him before? Remember that Sir Henry had told him that women are just decoration. He had told him that women are not geniuses. And, he said a number of really mean things that we read about last week about women. Do you think that had any influence on his reaction after finding out that Sybil had died?
Yes.
Yes, because in this story, Dorian Gray is probably about 19 or 20 years old. So he's very young and he's very impressionable. So my last question to you is this, ladies and gentlemen. What can a person your age do to avoid being influenced negatively by your friends? What can you do to avoid being influenced negatively by your friends? Because
question everything.
What?
Question everything.
Well, of course, you need to question everything. Because Dorian grew up without parents. You need to remember that. He did not have parents. He had somebody who took care of him, but his mom and his dad had died. So he did not have that strong influence of parents telling you, hey, don't do this, don't do that. So when he got a little bit of attention from Sir Henry, who was probably young at probably 25 years old, and from the artist Basil, he completely absorbed their ideas, even though he pretended not to. Because even though they told him that marriage was horrible, he still wanted to get married. But he absorbed their ideas. So what can you do other than questioning everything? What can you do to keep from falling into that mistake?
Teacher, I thought that the solution maybe can be talking to him more about why he told those things, or talk with your friends about why he told those things. But it's unfair because at the end, those words that they will try to explain to her will hurt her anyways. And it would get more into her mind, and it will get her more depressed and not feeling well with herself. So it's so difficult to know what really you need to do, because the first thing you have to do is to express yourself with someone so you can think about something. But if your friend is stupid like you, it will not help.
I think the big thing then, you have to go all the way back and be very careful when you're choosing friends. So my question would be, what are you looking for in friends? What are you really looking for? And how do you know if a person is a good influence for you or not? So answer the first question. What do you look for when you're out choosing a friend? Is it just somebody that makes you laugh, or somebody who has money, or what are you looking for?
I think that a real friend is who is one that tell you the truth in your face.
Oh.
Even if it's bad or it's sad, he will say it because he wants lo mejor.
The best.
The best for you.
So people, do we have different categories of friends, or everybody's on the same level? Like, do you have like best friends and then mere, normal friends, and then people you just know, or everybody's like your best friend?
No, we have different categories of friends.
Different categories of friends. Okay, so how do you place these people in these categories? How do you decide, of these group of people that I'm gonna call friends, these are my best friends, these are my acquaintances, and these are some fools that follow me around? How do you do that?
We can take an example from school. So I know my classmates, but they are not my true friends. But humans, we are so human that we don't like to get open with a lot of people. So we get in a group with some type of people that it's a small group.
But exactly, that's my question. How do you end up in a group with people? What are you looking for that makes you end up in that group? What is it?
That depends on your personality.
Okay, so what are you looking for? Are you looking for people who look like you, smell like you, live where you live? What are you looking for?
People that make you feel comfortable.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be people that are more like you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Good. So then after you're with these people that are more like you, how do you categorize them? How do you decide, oh, this one's my best friend? How do you do that?
I think something that is really important is to trust in that person. That's something very important in the way you categorize each kind of friend. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so what's really important that you cannot forget ever is that your friends do influence you. Even if you don't want to believe it, or even if you think that you're the one influencing, your friends influence you. And that's why it's extremely, extremely important that you're careful when you're choosing your friends, because these people have access to you. They have access to your thoughts, and you need to protect your thoughts, because that's where your decisions come from. So if you don't have like this filter system where you know this one's not going to be a close friend, this one is just an acquaintance, you are at the risk of making dumb mistakes in your lives. One of the things that is very important, and you need to remember as you grow older, your life is going to be like the people that you choose to be your friends. Okay? So look at your friends, and if you don't like the lives that they have, then you can't be friends with that person, because your life is going to look like that. That's a very important key, especially as you become an adult. The people that you're going to surround yourself with, their lives are going to be similar to yours. So if you don't like what you see in their lives, move and go find another group of friends. because we tend to form groups with people who are similar to us. So if you become an adult and all your friends are endeudados, quejones, me va mal, la vida es dura, el gobierno no sirve, and you don't want that, you need to move away and find another group of friends. Because if you stay with them, you're going to be exactly like them. That's why the older ladies always used to say, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. It's true. And a lot of people forget this. And we think that, oh no, my friends are like that, but I'm not like that. That's not how it works. They are your friends because you have things in common. Okay, so to close, I need 3 of you to tell me one lesson that we have learned so far from this book. One lesson, 3 of you. And if you don't start talking, I'm going to start calling names. And those of you who haven't said anything, you know I'm going to pick you first. Okay, so 1 person, 3 persons, 1 lesson each. One lesson that you've learned so far from the Picture of Dorian Gray.
The first thing is that you have to be careful of the people you choose in your life, because it influences you or positive or in a negative way. And that you have to get the approval of someone to feel good with yourself. Because I had experiences that make me change, and sometimes I think people with not fuerza de voluntad. How do you say fuerza de voluntad?
Willpower.
Yeah. If you don't have that, you will be easily influenced. Or if you don't have like a strong, authentic or personality, or a good personality, it will be easier to influence you. So you have to be careful on the people you choose, because you don't have to depend on the approval of other people in your life.
Yeah, good one. Okay, second person, one lesson you learned from the Picture of Dorian Gray. Nassim, you know I'm going to pick you because you haven't spoken. You know this. I mean, you knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Well, a lesson could be to check what is actually meaningful for you. Because until now, everything that Dorian Gray have done revolves around the things that actually mean something for him. And Lord Henry, it's the same thing. And I think the way that we are oriented the entirety of our decisions usually match up with the place when we find the things that are actually meaningful for us. So to check that out, we can make sure that our decisions are made for a reason and not because we have a vague sense of what actually constitutes a good reason for doing that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. One more lesson. Somebody, anybody, one more lesson that we learned until now from the Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm somewhere between Genesis, Layali, Diane, Daniel. One of you that haven't spoken a lot. Sarah's been silent too. Who's gonna go?
Me. The beauty is not just an appearance.
That's it? Okay, that was short. Okay, people, so please go read chapters 9 and 10. Watch the videos or look for the summary or something of chapters 9 and 10. And remember what I told you about credit cards. They're supposed to be used for emergencies if you ever get a credit card. They are not like a blessing and a gift. No, it's not your money. And you're going to end up paying the bank a lot more than what you expected. So be very careful with that. And this whole concept about hay que endeudarse, that's ridiculous. If you cannot afford something, it's not for you. And the concept of friends. Start reevaluating your friends. And if you have to eliminate people, not from social media, because we love to eliminate people from social media. No. I mean in real life. There are people that should not have access to you. Find out who they are. Get rid of them. Live your best life. Bye-bye. See you next time.